Hello and welcome to WriterSpeak, a program dedicated to the written word and those who produce it. I'm your host, Mikala Kennan, and with me in studio today is Steven Campbell. He is the author of Making Your Mind Magnificent, Flourishing at Any Age. It's a comprehensive but very, very accessible overview of the mind-body connection, the mind-brain connection, the power of our self-talk, and how we can actually change all of that to live a much more flourishing, generous, authentic life. It's a pleasure to have you with us in studio. Welcome, Steven.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's my pleasure. So, how do we make our mind magnificent?
Well, it really comes down to two principles. There's 15 in the book, and they're all important, but they really can be narrowed down to two. The first is that while I am talking to you, you are talking to yourself about 3 times faster. And your brain, here's the principle, your brain believes everything you tell it without question. So when you say, I just can't do this, the brain says, yep, you're right, you can't. Now, is it true? The brain doesn't even care. All it cares about is what you tell it. That's the scary part. Now, here's the wonderful part. When you say, I can do this, or when you say, this is too easy, or when you say, I'm running this fast, as you watch the Olympics, they were saying the same thing. You know what the brain says? Okay, again, is it true? Don't care. All I care about is what you tell me. Wow, it's really up to you. This is called cognitive psychology. It's up to the choices that you make. So you can say, well, I can do this. The brain says, okay. And then it looks for ways to do it. When you say, I can't, the brain says, you're right. And it gives up right there. Now, that's the first principle. The second principle, and this one is so exciting, is that the brain locks onto what you lock onto. So when I was a little boy, my dad taught me how to ride a bicycle. Took me out to this field, took the training wheels off, and he said, okay, Steven, now before we give you a little shove, you see that rock out there about 50 feet on the road? Yes, Daddy. Don't run into that rock, because you might fall and hurt yourself. I said, okay. So I got down on the bike, hands on the handlebars, started pedaling like mad with my eyes locked onto that rock. Of course, what happened? Right into the rock. That's why worrying is simply nothing but negative goal setting. That's all it really is. So when I locked onto that rock, the brain just said, okay, that's what I'm going to lock onto also. Now, you put those two things together, it's amazing what you can do. It really is. For instance, another principle that I like to share with people, because we've always thought it differently, is that we do not have one self-image. We've always said, well, I have a self-image I need to maintain. You have thousands, thousands of self-images. You have a self-image for how you see yourself as a director, as a manager, as a dancer, as a cook. You have a self-image for every single meal that you cook. So for instance, I cook really good scrambled eggs. Mary only has my scrambled eggs because I use a lot of butter. I cook really lousy poached eggs because I don't like poached eggs. So my poached eggs are yucky and runny and everything. Well, I have a really high self-image for my scrambled. And a really low one for my poached. Now think of this, Mikala. If I've got 2 self-images for just 2 meals that I cook, you can imagine how many thousands of self-images I have for all the skills and attributes and desires and passions that I have. Now, this is really important. Those self-images are, number one, they're learned. You were not born with them. You were born with certain natural dispositions and certain natural abilities, but the self-images were learned, okay? And they're hardwired into your brain, which means you can't get rid of them except through a lobotomy, which I don't think you're really open to, okay? Number 2, they're based, and this is really exciting, they're based only on your self-talk. They're based on what you say to yourself about yourself. That's it. Now people ask me, well, what about what others say to me? And I tell them, well, what others say to you do not become a part of you until you agree with them.
There is a tacit agreement point where you say, yes, I am whatever.
That's right.
I don't look great in this dress.
That's right. And the brain says, yep, you really don't.
And we believe it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. People ask me, well, how can the brain, I mean, if the brain's doing all the talking, who's it talking to? Well, we've known for centuries that the brain has a left and a right side, okay? And they all work together, but generally speaking, the left side is kind of where the logic is, it's where the language is, it's where the information goes, it's where, it's sort of where the academic part is, and on the left side. The right side are where your passions are, your feelings are, your emotions are. The right side is really where your self-images are. And the left side is where your self-talk is. So the left side's talking to the right side believes everything the left side is saying. So on the left side looks at a test and say, oh, you're a C student, the brain says, okay.
This is such a profound but simple concept.
Oh, it is, yes. It's so wonderful because it's so simple. When I began teaching this years and years and years ago, and I've been studying this for years, so I have, in fact, my book has got 5 pages of where all the studies come from. When I first studied, I said, I need to tell them where I'm getting this stuff. But as I talked to people, they were just, I knew that already. I knew that already. I knew that already. I was teaching in Oakmont last year, and a gentleman came up to me, cute little guy, maybe 5 feet, really short, cute little riding cap, adorable guy. And he came up to me, and he grabbed my hands and hugged them to his chest. And he said, hi, Steve, my name's Harry, and I'm 95 years old. And I said, well, Harry, good to meet you. And then he looked at me and he said, you got to tell, this is exactly what he said because I memorized it. You have to tell everyone about this in the whole wide world. I said, well, why, Harry? Because I've known it all my life and it really worked for me and it helped me get through some really difficult times. I said, well, could you maybe share one of the difficult times it got you through? And he got kind of quiet. And he said, yes, I was at Dachau during World War II, and I lost everything. But I learned to lock on to the positive stuff, which was almost impossible to find at Dachau. But I learned that if the guard was coming in on the other end of the barracks, it would give me another minute and a half worth of sleep, or I would get another extra crust of bread. Viktor Frankl wrote Man's Search for Meaning, and same sort of thing. He was an Austrian psychiatrist at Auschwitz. Same thing. He started logotherapy, which simply says, lock on to goals, and the brain finds a way. The brain finds a way. You lock onto what you want, and the brain finds a way. Wow.
One of the really wonderful aspects of the book is that you have broken it down into short chapters. You've got summaries, you've got reviews, you've got previews of things to come in the next chapters. And I think that relates to your principle about the brain learning in chunks.
That's right.
So talk a little bit about that.
Well, it's interesting how we learn. Sarah's our daughter, and she was raised in Rohnert Park. If you've ever been to Rohnert Park, the closest thing to Rohnert Park is to a city is the Raleigh Shopping Center. There's no city in Rohnert Park. So when Sarah was 3, she knew nothing about a city. So let's imagine Mary and I sat down 30 years ago, and we said, let's teach Sarah about a city. So I read her a book. Now here's what the brain does. The brain records that book as an image. It creates what is called a neural cluster, clusters of neurons to make that image. I read her another book, the brain records another image, another cluster, and we show her some buildings, some skyscrapers, we have her watch Sesame Street, and the brain's creating all these clusters, okay? Now, when she goes to sleep, because this happens mainly when we're asleep. In fact, we now know that your brain is more active when you're asleep than when you're awake. Your brain is working 24/7. When she goes to sleep, and Sarah goes to sleep, and the brain sort of says, okay, good, no more information. I need to make sense out of everything that you gave me during the day. That's why sleep is so important. What the brain does is it begins to see relationships between those clusters, so it creates connections. Neural connections, axons, dendrites, synaptic clefts, connections here, connection here, and over time it creates what is called a pattern of a city, and now Sarah can spend the rest of her life adding to that pattern of a city, and every single thing she learns about a city adds to that. It deepens her knowledge, and the brain's continually creating new patterns. And the question that people ask me is, okay, I'm 95 years old, how much can I still learn? And this is so exciting. The latest study that I've seen is that we have got about 100 billion brain cells. That's the latest study. Could be more, but around 100 billion. Each of those cells are connected to between 7 and 15,000 other cells, back and forth. So it's not a multiple, it's a power. So do the math. If you have 100 billion brain cells, and they're each connected to 10,000 cells, that means the number of connections, which determines how many patterns your brain can carry, is 100 billion to the power of 10,000. It's a number we can't even fathom. Peter Ankin was one of Russia's top neuroscientists. He died back in 1974. Back then they thought there were 30 billion brain cells. And this is interesting, Mikala. He was the student of Ivan Pavlov.
Oh.
Remember Pavlov?
Yep.
He was one of his primary students. He wanted to figure out, how do you write that number out, 100 billion? And back then it was 30 billion. I thought there were 30 billion. How do you write out 30 billion to the power of 10,000? He took a computer and calculated out. You start with the number 1. You follow it by 6.5 million miles of zeros. It's a number we can't even. You multiply 40,000 times 100 billion. That's more stars than there are in the Milky Way. So it's a number we can't even fathom. So the point that I make to my students when I do a winner circle in my book is this, and everything I say narrows down to this one sentence. And I'll say it really slowly because I don't want you to miss it. The primary key that holds us back from learning and growing and changing is what we say to ourselves.
Self-talk.
That's it. It really comes down to that. And when people begin to understand that, they just go, oh my gosh. Ernie, I met Ernie at Oakmont, and he came up to me, a very nice gentleman. He was about 6'2". His little wife was standing behind him. She was maybe 5 feet. Mikala was his wife, and Ernie. And Ernie said, I came to your seminars 4 weeks ago, and I just turned 91. When I turned 91, I looked in the mirror, and I said to myself, 91, boy, well, I guess this is the beginning of the end. And I came to your seminars, and I realized, now, wait a minute. Wait a minute. When you say that, what does the brain say? Okay. And I began coming to your seminars, and I ran back to the mirror last week after your seminar, and I looked in the mirror, and I said, now, wait a minute. Wait a minute. If I'm 91, in less than 10 years, I got to be 100. And 10 years after that, I could be 110. My gosh, I've got 20 more years to go. What am I going to do with all that time? So I went to the internet and signed up for a UC Berkeley course on relativity. And now I understand how relativity works. And now I'm taking a class on, what was it, calculus and French at the age of 91.
Excellent. Excellent.
Because he said, I can do it. And the brain says, absolutely. Wow.
Talk to me about your private creative process.
Well, this has been on my mind for 20 years. So when people said, where's your book, where's your book, where's your book? I simply said, okay, I need to write the book. And I sat down and I wrote the book. I can't think of a creative process. I wrote down the outlines, but it just sort of flowed out because of 25 years of being in there. People say, well, where's your next book, where's your next book? It's coming in my mind, but it's not there yet. And I'm not going to write a book just for the sake of writing a book. There's got to be a purpose behind it. And so I'm working on that. So the creative process is, it was there so long that it was almost an anticlimax. I just sat down and I wrote out what I've been teaching for 20 years. And it was all there. Now, because of the internet, I was able to find the studies and go into all that. And that was wonderful. But it had already sort of been there. So, yeah.
You know what I find interesting is that your initial audience is an older audience. A generation that would feel, I don't have time to learn, I don't have the ability to learn.
My initial audience was a college audience at Empire College and Heald College, and then the older audience. And now, this is interesting, Mikala, I'm finding myself teaching to grade school kids.
Excellent.
5th grade, 4th grade, because they understand it just as well as the older ones do.
Yeah.
That's what amazes me, is that I teach them in high schools and charter schools, and they love it just as much.
And you conduct one-day workshops around this.
Yes, I do a one-day workshop called the Winner's Circle, and the next one is going to be, I think, Saturday, September 22nd. And it's $99, and that covers lunch and everything, that's it. And people just love it, and they keep coming back. It's a one-day workshop from 9 to 3:30.
Okay.
And it's right here at Sonoma Mountain Village, which is the old Hewlett-Packard in Rohnert Park.
And because this show may not air until possibly October, I know that you do have some classes scheduled for October, November, December.
Yes, people can go to my website and find out when they are. The website is anintelligentheart.com.
Okay.
One word.
Yeah, anintelligentheart.com.
Yes.
And tell us about the audio now.
Well, the audio is simply my reading the book. And what's interesting is that in the book, at the end of every chapter, there are what I call points to ponder, where people can, there's a question, briefly describe 2 times in your life when you locked out opportunities because you did not think you had what you needed to reach them. Well, if you have the audio, you don't have the points to ponder, but they're now on my website. So if you get the audio, you can, and the audio is the same cost as the book is, which is $20.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And where do we find the book?
It's on my website, and it's on Amazon.com.
Okay.
So you can find it on Amazon. Just look under Making Your Mind Magnificent, and it's there. Another thing that we have, which is just, this is relatively new, is we have what we call Moments with Steven. Because after I give a series of websites, people say, I wish I had more, I wish I had more, I wish I had more. So what I've done is for, I think it's $12.97 per month, you can go to my website, we give you a username and a password, and you have videos of me giving these lessons, and you can see them 24/7. So people love that, so they can see them 24/7. And every single time a new one comes, an email goes to that person saying, here's a new subject, and go to it, and there it is, and the link is right there, so they can go right in there and watch it. So that's very exciting too.
It all sounds magnificently easy, but I know it's not.
It's not. Here's the reason why. The brain doesn't like to change. All those self-images, you know what psychologists call those self-images? Your comfort zone. And your brain's job is to keep you safe within that comfort zone. The original title of the book was Making Your Mind Your Mentor. A mentor is someone who sees more in you than you see in yourself. And that's what this book becomes. Now, thanks for asking that question. We've talked about how the brain thinks, but we also need to talk about feelings. Because, Mikala, you know and I know that we are not thinking people who feel. We're feeling people who think. And if I didn't talk about what to do with the feelings when you blow it, which you will, because we do, then we need to talk about that. And this is what's so exciting. Cognitive psychology, it says so many things, but the 2 things that it emphasizes, number 1, we talked about this, the brain, what you are today is based on how you think today. But here's the second one. This is really cool. I get so excited. The second one is this. Our feelings do not primarily come from what happens to us. They come from our beliefs about what happens to us. For instance, if I showed up at your front door and we've been dear friends for years and had a big shovel, hi Mikala, hi Steve, how are you? Can I go to your backyard and dig a hole? And you say, okay, so I'm going to the backyard, dig a hole. You watch me dig this hole with my shovel. Now you have all these beliefs. Let's see, we've known each other for years, we're good friends, he knows it's my birthday, he knows I love trees. I bet he's digging a hole in my backyard to plant a tree for my birthday. Oh, that's Steve. What a nice guy. I'll go get him a beer. We'll have some time. We'll get some pizza, have a nice time. Well, that's Steve. What a wonderful guy. All these nice, cuddly, cozy feelings come out. Different scenario. We hate each other. I don't know why, but we do. I show up at your front door with a shovel. Hi, Mikala. Hi, Steve. I'm going to go to your backyard and start digging a hole. So I just start digging this hole in your backyard. You're watching me. Completely different beliefs. You think I'm going to dig the hole to bury you in it, okay? Now, watch this. This is really cool. I mean, it's really interesting. Same shovel, same hole, same backyard, same Mikala, same Steve, completely different beliefs, completely different feelings. Which means what? We don't have to be a victim of our feelings. We can affect them. Mm-hmm. We can say, okay, I feel this way, but those feelings are based on what I'm believing. Mm-hmm. So I can go back and figure out, how can I change my beliefs?
You can say, okay, simply change your beliefs. Mm-hmm. Say I am instead of
I will.
I will.
Mm-hmm. Or I'll try. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you what happened. When I was at Empire College, I was the night dean for a while, and students come to my office, they'd say, I don't understand, Mr. Campbell, because I'm really, really trying. Mm-hmm. And whenever they said that, I would put a book in front of them, and I would say, that's great, Mikala, I want you to try and pick up the book. So go ahead and try to pick up the book. No, don't pick it up, try to pick it up. Come on, go ahead, you're not trying hard enough. Go on, try. You see the point? Mm-hmm. The point is that when you're trying, it's a complete cop-out. Remember how I said the brain doesn't want you to change? The brain says when you say, well, I'm really trying, the brain says, oh good, try the rest of your life. That way I don't have to do a thing. And a really short version, a short close cousin of that is I should. I should lose this weight. I should eat better. I should exercise more. I should get along with my daughter. I should. And you know what the brain says to that? The brain says, yeah, you really should. You just don't. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The key to this is you say, I am. I'm there already.
In the present.
In the present. Now, this is where Gestalt psychology comes in. Gestalt psychology was actually a school of philosophy that began in the first part of the last century in Berlin. And it observes that man needs a sense of order. And we'll say it in a very simple way. Our brain doesn't like gaps. It doesn't like gaps. Okay? So it closes the gap. Okay? Mm-hmm. So when you say, well, I'll give you an illustration. My dad died when he was very young, about 30 years ago, and Mary said to me, if you die early, I'll kill you. And she said that again. So I was much heavier, so I said, okay, I need to lose this weight. So I'd get up and swim and run, and I would lose maybe 2 or 3 pounds in a week, and then I would gain it all back. I did that for 25 years. Here's the reason. Because I would say, you will lose 30 pounds. And my brain said, well, I really hope you do. Good luck. That sounds great. I'm going to go take a nap. So what I created was called an affirmation. And an affirmation isn't mystical. It's simply a statement that when written correctly triggers a picture in your mind of a goal that has already been accomplished. Mm-hmm. So I created an affirmation saying, I look great at 200 pounds. Now first when I said that, the brain freaked out. It said, hello, look at the scale. Does it read 200? It reads 230. And then it said, give up, because this is the way it is. And I said, no. I see myself at 200, and that's what I'm going to lock onto. And you know what my brain said? Okay. Is it true? Don't care. All I care about is what you tell me. So when you say it, I believe it. And then this is so neat. When you lock onto it, do you know what I'll do? I'll do everything I can to make it true in your life. Wow.
It's amazing.
It is.
It is.
It's amazing.
And I would encourage everyone to lock on to a copy of this book. It is a tremendous wealth of information. It is a fantastic resource for making little changes, big changes in your life. It's written in a way that whether you're 8 or 80, inside or outside, mm-hmm. It's very, very accessible in its knowledge. Complex information broken down into very, very usable, practical sound bites of wealth. I do encourage you to go to Steven's website, anintelligentheart.com. And I want to thank you for sharing your passion, sharing your information with us. And it makes me want to seriously start thinking about I'm not even going to start thinking.
You're doing it.
Thinking.
You're thinking.
I am thinking about everything I say and all that I do toward a better life.
Good. Thank you for
Thank you
having
again.
me. You're welcome.
And thank you for tuning in to WriterSpeak. We'll be back again. Please consult your local listings at the Community Media Center for the airing of this show and others, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.